Good evening and welcome to Nerds and Night Gaming. As always, I'm Kid Thunder DJ, this time only joined by
Fire 47.
Alright, it's obviously been a couple weeks since we've been on. We alluded to this on Twitter, but we're just going to kind of go ahead and let everybody know here what's been going on. Our mother is dealing with some very serious health issues, and in addition to this being our busiest toy show season, we have events every month and through January, and out trying to get more merchandise and expand our trade network. We just have been really busy, and with Elisa going into finals week, going into finals week for her master's degree classes, it's just timing is pretty much gone. So, anyway, we're here, and we're going to talk about a couple things. There's some expansions out for Horizon Zero Dawn, or an expansion. Some expansion news for both Tekken and Injustice 2 we'll get to here in a moment. First, want to shout out Daryl from Sigs by the Bigs on Facebook. Definitely check him out if you love anything, especially horror movie related sign. He's become a very valuable member to the Nerds and Night team through his affiliation with us and Toys of Our Youth. He, actually, if you're in the area, you can go out and see him at the Granite City Flea Market, Route 66 Flea Market, right across from Mark's Toys of Our Youth booth. He's a really great guy, really, really knowledgeable. If you have anything signed, he can help you get it taken care of, or if you're looking for signed memorabilia, he's probably got it. Anyway, also Bodox Games down in Arnold, Missouri, and Shamrock's Bar and Grill up here in St. Peter's. So, moving along. I also want to talk about some wrestling news. We'll kind of get to that first just to mix things up. Lucha Underground is getting a 4th season, which I think really when you're looking for truly an alternative to WWE, they're the best you're going to find. They're very cinematic. Their stories are very... they do like multi-camera shoots, and it's, in a lot of ways, it's not really pro wrestling, although the action in the ring is, because they do a lot of theatrical behind the set, or backstage skits, but it's definitely an interesting watch, especially if you even have a passing interest in the Lucha Libre style. Also, Jinder Mahal finally dropped the WWE Championship to AJ Styles, although we're curious to see if in the coming week, if that turns into, just a bait and switch where they drop it back. They've already changed the promo for the upcoming Survivor Series pay-per-view to feature AJ Styles versus Brock Lesnar, and it kind of makes sense because a lot of the title holders were heel, and so we were getting a lot of heel versus heel matchups, which really don't draw well. So I could see them pulling the trigger. I think they all kind of realized, even in the Indian market, Jinder Mahal's not getting over, and if you're going to sacrifice a lamb, so to speak, it may as well be that one, because taking the belt off Lesnar would do more harm than good. The fans are actually ready for Mahal to be done, so it kind of worked. Over in the internet wrestling community side, this information is a couple weeks old, but Adam Blampier is already out at Cultaholic, and I wanted to talk about this. And Fireheart, you're more in the millennial generation than I am, but. Okay. You know what he was... I know you don't really follow a lot of what goes on with those sites, but what happened is he voluntarily took a leave, and then they decided to terminate his employment. It came to light that he was using his status as a fairly well-known YouTube person to get girls to send him inappropriate pictures and lied about the status of his relationship. Basically, nothing that you could really say was criminally wrong, but definitely stuff that made him kind of a scumbag.
I was going to say, that's definitely creepster level right off the bat.
Right. And what made it even more aggravating is looking through the comments, you'd get so many people going, well, that happens all the time, and every other famous person does that, or why does he have to leave the channel? And it ranges from that level of ludicrous to the seemingly, well, hey, he's saying he's sorry, why should he have to give up his job? Which, believe what you want, but the idea is they're recognizing in this culture we live in with, so many famous people now coming under fire for their behavior, they're smart to just say, you know what? No one ever said he couldn't come back later. We're going to temporarily, suspend him, or, well, now they've actually sort of fired him, and let him get himself together and come back, and we'll see what we can do down the road. And I applaud that. And it should, whether he took the personal responsibility.
Even if not, it is in their best interest to remove bad blood, and especially in this current media situation in these last few weeks where so many famous people,
right? Like I said, so many
is getting.
If there's
any history whatsoever of
anything sexual that's negative sexual,
like predatory.
Right, you're looking at a lot
starting
of
to come up, and anything related to that is going to get, or anyone related to that is going to get bad press.
Right. Well, I mean, come on. We have Kevin Spacey go down. Louis C.K. basically just flat out admitted, yeah, my behavior's been inappropriate, and they're telling the truth. And his show Louis done, and he had a movie getting ready to come out that's been shelved. I mean,
I didn't realize he actually said it was true.
Yeah. He literally released a statement saying, yes, my behavior was inappropriate. I'm going to take a step back and see where I go from here. So, really bad time.
I mean,
for anybody. I mean, it's always and don't get me wrong. Nobody should have ever behaved this way to begin with. And yeah, it bothered me when everybody's argument was, well, this is what happens. That was how so much of this behavior, especially out of Weinstein,
I say it's just apologists,
was allowed to go on for so long. Was that's the biz. Ha, you're a pretty girl. Ha, some pervert's
rape is the biz,
right?
Nice.
And that's pretty much what they're saying. And then I think
that's not okay.
Yeah,
guys.
And I think no matter what, you have to look at it from they did the right thing, and hopefully this will be a deterrent for the future for people to go, you know what, it's not worth doing this. It's not worth, power is one thing, but using my power like that is just not going to be helpful. So I wanted to bring that up and kind of tie it in wrestling because, the Cultaholics / What Culture group, their channel is up and going and only delayed it about a week, and they put out some videos. They've been pretty good, and I mean, definitely that old feel, kind of 2015 era What Culture feel is there. And yeah, it sucks not having Blampier around, but they're doing okay. And we'll see where that goes. So let's get out of wrestling and get into video. Or actually, I got to stay in wrestling for one more minute. I did pick up north of 50 new figures, most of them modern Attitude Era and newer, and probably 100 wrestling flyers and magazines ranging all the way back from 1962 up to the early 2000s and newer. So we'll have those at the December 10th Toyman show. That's your big one if you want to get in before Christmas and find that perfect gift for a wrestling fan, video game fan, retro fan. I mean, whatever you're looking for. Comic books, I'm sure we're going to have it. And that's at the 12365 St. Charles Rock Road, Bridgeton, Missouri, 63044. That is the Machinist Building. It shares a lot with U.S. Bank and Target, so you're right there. So make a day of it. If you're going to come out and come to Target anyway to start your Christmas shopping or work on your Christmas shopping, take a swing in. You never know what you'll find. But let's move on from the toy show, although this last toy show wasn't that great.
Overall, no, but I still think...
We had a fun day, but it was certainly...
It was a fun day. We had good finds, and we still were in the green, so it's a good day.
And I did get rid of some things that have been sitting a while, so... Anyway, moving on. So you found out something not long before we went on air about Tekken 7, so...
Yeah.
You play that game even though I bought it, so let's go ahead and let you take the lead on this.
So, about an hour ago at the time of recording, I believe one of the Tekken 7 tournaments, wherever that one is, I don't follow the tournament scene too much, but month of November is a lot of the fighting game tournaments in general, and they usually end with announcements for the respective games that are on file. And Tekken just finished theirs, and it ended with announcing that Noctis from Final Fantasy 15 is going to be a character, and I could...
Listen to the way he says it is going to be a character. He's out of control. Stop him. He is the jizz.
I was so, blown away by it, because it was it didn't seem fitting at first, just from the style of game the game is. Literally, Yoshimitsu has only been the other character, minus, Kunimitsu, using a weapon. So to bring him in, especially as, this weapon-summoning multi-weapon user, just seemed out of place.
Well, I mean, it kind of fits
watching his gameplay, it looks really cool.
Yes, it does fit. His weapon instant generating style does fit with how that mechanic worked in Final Fantasy 15. So I can give him a pass on that. And yes, they understand how to make weapon play work in a fighting game because it's the same people who brought out Soul Calibur. Which did you also find out something else about that? Yeah,
there was also a bit of I guess you can say rumors on that one. I saw on the rumor mill that the same person who predicted that the other announcement that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are coming to Injustice 2, which that is confirmed, had a trailer, which was really cool, along with Enchantress and Atom Man.
Yeah.
The person that hinted that, or
I want to get back to that in a minute, so go ahead and finish what you're reporting, but I want to get back to that.
Right, we'll get to Injustice as well. Well, the person that leaked that news about the TMNT is now stating that, along with a couple other games like Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite is the new one, I think.
Yeah.
A couple of those, like the arcade release of Street Fighter V, they're getting some stuff, but a possible development announcement of Soul Calibur 6 coming out for, I think they said PC, PS4, as well as possibly the Switch, and that the Switch might have Link return as a playable character, which seeing him updated with like all the Breath of the Wild type stuff. And
you mean his weapons breaking mid-fight?
Huh?
You know, because it's going to be Breath of the Wild style.
Yeah, okay.
You know, his weapons just break mid-fight.
Well, they could go for like Twilight Princess or something.
I know, they could go for the visual style. I was just being an ass. But
yeah.
I want to jump back to Injustice 2 and the Turtles announcement, which I'm all in, even if they do this. I know I really hope they aren't, but I know just for the sake of making it fit the format, and they kind of alluded to it in the trailer when one of the Turtles was going to rush ahead and Donatello stopped him, or Leonardo stopped him and said, "We all fight as one." I'm hoping that they don't, but they're probably going to do the same mechanic they did for Triborg and MKX, where you sort of pick a skin, and that's the turtle you're fighting as, but whatever their X-ray move is going to be will involve all of them.
Well, a lot of people are actually hoping that they're pulling it off as a 4-in-1, where like...
That's what I just said.
Well, no, not like that, because Injustice, if I can remember correctly, Injustice 2, it didn't style it like MKX, where they had like, there are 3 different play styles that was a variant. I think Injustice 2 didn't have that, so I don't think it would make it... I don't think they could really pull that off as well. I think what they're literally doing as... literally 4 as 1, like you're maybe one of them is the head, but a basic attack would pull in one for an attack or something, or that would be
sloppy and convoluted very fast.
It depends.
I could also see it being the power skin thing where
I kind of trust these guys to give it a shot and see if that's what they want to do. It'd be very ambitious, but it would be very unique and interesting. And I've seen very recently with games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, they're doing one where they have team-up characters as well. Like Android 18 and 17 are a pair. They don't fight as separate characters, they actually work as one. And what's kind of actually interesting is if... one little edit is if you have Android 18 in your party, as well as Krillin takes the place for team attacks instead of 17.
Nice.
So that's pretty sweet.
Makes sense.
Right.
I want to go back to this because I kind of realized I rushed through some of the significance of the wrestling memorabilia I picked up. I just want to pull randomly one of like the flyers. Let's look at one of the flyers I picked up because this is, if you're a wrestling fan, this is some cool stuff here.
Let's hear us talk about the flyers.
So, actually I pulled 2 out, so I'll go over both. This is Sunday, December 29th, 1996, Hartford Civic Center, and this is the Holiday Hell Tour for WWF. This would have been probably the in-window flyer for the box office. So you had Sid as champion going against Goldust as challenger, Shawn Michaels versus Mankind with Paul Bearer, Undertaker versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is a house show. So, you got to see a lot of cool stuff you didn't ever really get to see on TV at house shows back then. Intercontinental Champion Triple H going up against Jake the Snake Roberts. Ahmed Johnson versus Vader. For the tag belt, you had the Godwins challenging British Bulldog and Owen Hart. So, yeah, December, this is about a year, or a little under a year before the Montreal Screwjob. Wildman Mark Merrow versus Crush. No mention of Sable, so this must have been after their split. Wow, here's some names that never lasted on TV very long. Doug Furness and Philip LaFawn versus Razor Ramon and Diesel with Paul Bearer. And that's got to be the fake Razor and Diesel era, because I believe that is December 1996. That's after Bash at the Beach. So yeah. So let me think. Other bouts featuring Savio Vega versus Farouk, Bart Gunn versus Justin Hawk Bradshaw, and then of course they show some of the available local television that they have there. And then here's a really old 1981 Hartford Civic Center. You could get a photo of Bob Backlund free for 50 cents for postage to OTM in Ridgefield. So then this one was featuring Bob Backlund versus Sergeant Slaughter, Mil Mascaras versus Don Morocco, and Backlund and Slaughter was for the title. Tony Garea and Rick Martel as tag team champions against the Killer Khan and George Steele. Ken Henning versus Johnny Rods, which anytime you see Johnny Rods' name turn up and it's a guy you never heard of, fairly good chance that was a guy getting a tryout match. And Johnny Rods was because back in that era he was the guy. He, like in the early 90s it was X-Pac they'd put guys against, and if they could have at least a passable match with this guy, then they may move forward in the process. You had Jose Estrada versus Dom DiNucci. So, simple little show. It doesn't say who's promoting this, but if it's Backlund as champion, it's WWF. And then SummerSlam advertisement on the back of this one. I'll let you see if you can guess the year by... Oh, hang on. See if you can guess the year by who's on the card. So it's... This is for the Wheeling Civic Center. For the Heavyweight Championship, 1 hour fall, or 1 hour time limit, one fall. Hulk Hogan versus Macho Man Randy Savage. The Rockers versus the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers. King Duggan versus Hakeem. Bret Hart versus Greg the Hammer Valentine. Jim the Anvil Neidhart versus Dino Bravo. Hercules versus Haku, and Paul Roma versus the Widowmaker. And I won't bore you guys with this anymore, but it's just kind of...
Are you asking me to guess?
Well, no. I mean, that's pretty obvious that's very late 80s, or very early 90s. Maybe, yeah. 91, 92 era, I think, is when, because that's right after, right before No Holds Barred, because then in that same feud, because this is when Hogan had Elizabeth at his side, while Macho Man had Sherry, and this is right before, I believe, they integrated Zeus into the feud out of the movie. And it was just kind of, if you're a wrestling fan, it's kind of cool to always sort of see where the business was at that point. So, lots more of those. WWF magazines, Pro Wrestling Illustrator magazines, will all be for sale at the next toy show. Yeah. Or if you're interested in looking at any of them sooner, just find us at facebook.com/nerdsattnight and maybe we can set something up. But anyway, so we talked about the wrestling stuff. We talked about the video game news.
Yeah. So small little funny tidbit, I guess, or fun fact, was apparently November 12th was the same day that Cloud was announced for Super Smash Brothers 2 years ago, which is this year, which is this day today.
Final Fantasy! Who cares? Hey, wait, whatever happened with that Final Fantasy VII remake? Did they finally realize that they've done a terrible thing and stopped?
Who knows? I haven't had news on that since it was announced. So.
Right. I'm hoping that's just one of those projects that fades away, like, what was it, Dead Island 2?
I was going to say that, or Lost Guardian. That took forever. And then
they formally announced that one's death. I'm talking about a game where,
that one came out.
Oh.
That one was the one
you're right. You're right.
The dog thing.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that was a game, and it happened. And
I was thinking about that one for Xbox that everybody was so ready for that they canceled.
Dang, I forgot the name of it. That kind of fits.
Right, I know what you're talking about. But, yeah, speaking of Xbox, picked up a couple new games. Looking at the stack. But right. I got into Friday the 13th, and I got to say this. It's fun. I love the concept where you're either Jason or you're his victims. A couple things I don't like. One, I realize that, yes, in the movies, if he caught you, you were most likely dead no matter what. But still, if you're going to include an escape mechanic, it needs to be a little more on the money, because there's been plenty of times where it's just been like, well, okay, there was no point in even trying there. Or you're hitting the button and it looks like it's registering with them, then all of a sudden you're still getting killed. And two, they need better control over asshole players who don't want to take the loss when they're Jason. Like, I got booted from so many games because I just found a good hiding spot. And I'd be the last person alive, and I made sure to set myself up, because, the whole point is you find your way to survive. And the people I was playing with, somebody had already gotten the car up and running and had left, so I was waiting for the police to come, and I found this kind of cabin that I think he thought he had already swept and hadn't made his way back to, and I had all the stuff that you could have locked down. I was hiding under a bed that was kind of right inside the room, so I kind of figured he might walk by it first, thinking, psychology, that I'd be closer to the door, and all that stuff, and got kicked because the guy probably, got tired of walking around trying to find me. And it's not, I'm doing the game. You're just not wanting to, be like, oh God, I got defeated as
right,
Jason.
People are being salty.
Right. And it's, something needs to happen to, there should be a kick vote for players so that you can go, so you can be like, no, I'm still here. Vote no, because I'm still here. So that's my one complaint about it. And then there's another abomination we picked up just today. My wife and I love playing, like, Wheel of Fortune together. I love playing Jeopardy. And, it's been a while since we've had a console release outside of, like, the 3DS. And they finally put one out on Xbox One. They called it America's Greatest Game Shows. It was Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. And, oh my God, it was the worst thing ever. Because, first, they didn't license any voices, so there's no Alex Trebek. It's some generic woman. There's no Pat Sajak or Vanna White. It's this really dumb-looking guy. And, the woman's interchangeable, but, really dumb-looking guy who says the same, like, 3 phrases over and over again. Really took out of the experience. I mean, you're okay with it if you play with mute. And the Jeopardy game made the one mistake I can't stand, and that is they made the answers multiple choice and not typing in your answer. So, sometimes dumb logic and the way they ask the question is going to give the answer away. But I will give them praise. One feature I like on the Jeopardy site is, while they're quote-unquote reading the question, if you try to jump the gun and buzz in before the buzz-in time, you get locked out. So that you can't just be a faster reader than your opponents and take the advantage. So that was a good thing. But all in all, it's still very drizzly. Shitty.
Right.
Anyway.
Starbucks dump.
Right. Grabbing a good morning start anyway.
But yeah, I mean, games like those are usually dime a dozen, and they are going to get shorthanded in quality, so not exactly surprised, but
I wasn't expecting high art, but we've had better.
This is surprisingly low.
Right, for where the benchmark should be, from arguably the best, which were the PS1 games, actually, this is depressing. But
Right.
Anyway, also been working more and more on hockey. I mean, really, this year they've done the best that I think they've done in a while. Shadows of War has still been pretty amazing. I've been slogging through that. Some YouTube news. I decided how I want to proceed with the next season of Nerds at Night. Really haven't felt all that into doing like gameplay reviews and stuff. I kind of feel like us just doing sort of Let's Plays has ran its course for us. We A, don't have the time with us taking care of our mom, and B, if I'm going to do anything like that, like when we do this attorney talent stuff, I'm going to switch to either a live YouTube setup or a Twitch, something where it's more interactive. People can kind of watch us and comment with us because, why not? But we are going to be reviving the NWF idea, the Nerds Wrestling Federation. I've already started working on arenas and downloading characters and creating characters to fill out a roster so that we can just sort of bank 4 weeks worth of shows and a pay-per-view. I will warn you now, we might put the pay-per-views behind a paywall just to make something for the time, but they'll be like 99 cents.
Ooh, the real money.
Right. Because you got to think, just to help avoid copyright and everything else, I'm going to have to find, royalty-free music to dub over in-ring music. I got to blank out the commentary because that's going to be a hot mess. There's a lot of work that'll go into this. So, hopefully I can make it work. I'm going to start by the end of Monday. I'm hoping to have a beta test record, like do one match and see if I like it. And we'll go from there. But if you do have a character you want to submit, like if you've got a created wrestler you've got up on the community creations, send us the hashtag or the PSN name that it's under, and we'll find it and we'll bring it in. You can do that, either share it for wherever you're linking this from, or just leave us a post at facebook.com/nerdsaatnight. Short show probably tonight. I'm not really thinking there's much else we were going to talk about. Is there anything else you can think of? Do you want to talk about?
Not much, I don't think.
Yeah. I don't think so either. We're at that wonderful period where lots of cool stuff's out, but it's also Christmas, so everybody's busy.
Right.
All right. I think
we
we
show within a month, so
yeah,
we're going to be busy.
Right.
Thanksgiving, too, so that's fun.
Right. I do want to say that we finally got to break into the Anatomy Park board game for Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's actually really fun. It's not as complicated as it seems, especially it's one of the ones that really, once you start playing it,
It'll start making more sense.
it makes a lot of sense really fast. It reminds me a lot of Zombies, where you're sort of building the playboard you're playing on, only there's mechanics now to control the special effects of the piece you play, because the piece you play is usually some form of a body part. So, if you're into Rick and Morty and you want a decent Rick and Morty game, definitely check it out. It's probably the top Rick and Morty game I've played so far out of the ones they've put out. But I think that'll do it for tonight. If you guys have any other topics you want to talk about. Oh, actually, I did know something I wanted to talk about.
Right, I just thought of one too.
Well, this should tell you how unprepared we were. We just wanted to get something out because it's been a while. Frozen Wilds is finally out for Horizon Zero Dawn.
Right.
And that made me think of all the, like, as much as I love that game, all the weird little things in that game you just have to sort of accept to play it that make no sense. Like, you have this character who lives in a world that, based on the in-game material, and I could be wrong, is only a couple hundred years removed from when their ancestors come out of the big arc that's supposed to save everyone. And those people were aware of, technology and were educated at least somewhat in the ways of the old world. And yet somehow in only a couple hundred years, rather than progress, they all completely regress to savages.
Right.
I mean, it's just, I get it. It's the framing device to make that world make sense. And I mean, it would be possible to a fault. You get people who...
And with the robotic thread.
Right, like there should be some memory like, oh, by the way, all these giant machine animals that are refixing the land, that if we mess with them, mess with us back. Oh, yeah, our great ancestors told the story about how these were here to rebuild our world because of this and this and that. It just seemed so inconceivable that they forgot so much of the heritage.
Well, that's kind of what the point was I was about to make, was because they do so much damage and put humanity to the brink, that
humanity died. That's the one super creepy but ultimately interesting thing about Horizon Zero Dawn is if you follow all the flashback stuff that she finds, humanity itself, everybody alive in that world are descendants of clones, more or less, that were made and raised in the facility by the Gaia program after I forget what they call them in the game, but after the evil machines who ran on breaking down bioorganic matter literally killed every element of life on the planet.
Well, then, in a way, there you go.
So, but even still, that doesn't matter because the people who were released out, even though she had to do it, and she had to do it early, so this is still definitely not that far away, remembrance-wise. Excuse me. Where obviously because I kind of get the vibe all the metallic animals were supposed to be gone. I had everything gone to plan, and I think Ares or whatever they call it, virus, didn't happen. And spoilers to all this, but the game's been out for almost a year now, so at this point, if you haven't learned by now, you're not going to play it. I think the plan was crack the code to disable the machines, use the cauldrons to create machines that could repair and reseed the world, do away with them, reintroduce educated humans, because originally they were going to know everything about the world that was before. The guy, one of the top people over the project, went a little nuts and said they shouldn't know, because then they'll just be doomed to repeat our mistakes. So he deletes all that data, but still. It was just such a weird thing. And then there's other things like, okay, you have this girl, your faith is that the mountain you live in is sacred. And all of a sudden, one day, there is a child out of thin air born supposedly of this mountain you find sacred. So what's the first thing you do?
Exile them.
Yes. Why was this whole story not about a tribal warrior goddess who realizes that,
Wonder Woman style.
Right, that she should be going off to save her world, not, oh, I hate all of you, but the situation has come up where I have to defeat this evil for you while getting...
just to prove myself.
Right, while getting more or less continually mocked. It just felt unnecessary to get that moment later on that we could have gotten anyway about her being Elizabeth's clone and not an actual child of the mountain, which she had always kind of felt was bullshit anyway. So that whole initial setup just felt like BS. It felt like that's what they needed just to get the story up and going.
Oh, well.
And even then, when she more or less proves by opening the mountain that, hey, yeah, guess what? Look, I am something special. People still treat her like shit.
Right.
It's like, come on. It's, it reminds me of that scene in Rick and Morty where Principal Vagina gets all the heat for being like, look, y'all could continue to sit here and pray to God, but I'm going to go outside and pledge my life to the thing that's literally controlling the weather.
Right. That was a great scene.
Show me what you got.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's silliness. And there's some other things like, these badass, super destructive machines that basically broke down and destroyed all life on the planet could be destroyed by a minigun firing hot coals.
Yeah.
Logical leaps like that, or they show a couple of them being defeated by people with sharpened metal points on sticks. I mean, just such a silly game. And so, when you really look at that game, I mean, this happens in a lot of games, but man, when you really look at the game,
I mean, like,
as good as it is, it's still kind of silly.
The idea that they would design these robotic destroyers after to cleanse the world of life and then restart it, essentially.
That's not why they did that. No, well, you're missing the point. The whole reason the machines went crazy were they were supposed to be. Well, it was almost like Ultron. They were supposed to be this driven by complete computer logic, protect the country and life thing, and it's been so long since I played the early part of the story, I can't fully remember. It was either they gained self-awareness and hated us, or there was an error in the program that made them hate us and just start, because they could replicate by absorbing bioorganic material. So that's what they did. They started breaking down everything that was alive to make more of their own kind. They created this super unbreakable encryption so they couldn't be remote shut off. And that was part of what they were doing with the Project Zero Dawn, was to create another computer smart enough to break it, but is 100% committed to life. And that's the Gaia program, who was going to break the code, shut down the other machines, and then develop a way to bring life back to the planet. And then, of course, there was the virus, like I said, I think it was called the Ares virus, that screwed it all up. And boom, before the Gaia program fully dies, she activates the program to create Elizabeth's clone, because she's got the genetical match needed to operate everything to shut everything down.
Right.
And that's where we were at. And then I haven't started the Frozen Wilds yet, but I'm kind of curious to see how all these tribes in the north are going to affect things. So
right, I need to finish this game.
Right, it's a great game, and don't let all of our ragging on some of the sillier aspects. You take any game, and you look for the silly, you'll find it.
Right, yeah, you can break anything down.
So, and what was the thing you wanted to talk about?
Oh, right. Just wanted to kind of report on the Extra Life news that happened.
That's right, Afterlife.
Extra Life. With Rooster Teeth, they had they just had their charity drive last night, on Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 a.m. And by the end of it, between basic donations, their groups are part of their massive super team, and combined merchandise sales, as well as like a couple times where they started matching donations for like a half hour and whatnot, they made a combined total of $1.2 million.
Nice, that's a good job on them.
After 24 hours of hilarious, crazy ass antics.
All right, we'll go into more detail. I want a full wrap up on that on the next show, but
yeah,
it's pushing 11:30, guys. So
right,
and work will be here soon. So I do want to say, for Nerds Night Gaming, I'm Kid Thunder DJ,
and I'm 547.
Thanks for joining us. Good night.